I thought my sister's smile at the wedding was innocent, until I saw the photo that changed everything. I attended my sister Claire's wedding as the maid of honor, tasked with capturing candid moments. Everything appeared perfect. White roses, smiling guests, champagne toasts. But subtle details didn't sit right with me. I noticed unusual glances and secretive whispers. My sister's laughter seemed too intimate with the groom's cousin, Michael. And then, a photograph. Caught them sharing a closeness that shouldn't exist, hinting at a secret affair. I spent the reception battling anxiety, trying to rationalize my suspicions. As fireworks lit the night sky, I realized nothing would ever be the same, and I had stumbled upon something far bigger than wedding drama. I stood at the edge of the garden, my camera dangling from my neck like a chain I couldn't break free from. The night air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of roses from the ceremony. Somewhere in the distance, laughter from the reception hall sounded like a fragile wall separating me from a truth I wasn't ready to face. I reviewed the photo again. Claire and Michael, shadowed by the dim string lights, smiling in a way that was far too intimate. My chest tightened, my palms slick with nervous sweat. I had to know. Was this just innocent flirtation, or something darker? I retraced my steps, pretending to mingle with guests while my mind raced. Uncle Robert, Claire's father-in-law, caught my eye across the hall. His gaze lingered on me, sharp and unreadable. For a brief moment, I wondered if he suspected the same thing. By midnight, most guests had drifted off to the dance floor, leaving me alone with a few stragglers. I wandered toward the terrace where the suspicious conversation had taken place. Moonlight painted silver streaks across the polished floorboards, and I could hear soft murmurs. My heart skipped when I spotted Michael's familiar silhouette, pacing near the railing. "You shouldn't be out here," I said, my voice louder than intended. He startled, turning to face me. Just getting some air," he stammered. There was a hesitation in his voice that made me narrow my eyes. "Are you hiding something?" I asked. I wasn't sure if I wanted him to answer. Michael's jaw tightened. "It's complicated, Claire. She's not what she seems." A shiver ran down my spine. "Explain." He glanced around as if fearing someone might overhear, then leaned closer. "She's been living a double life, and you caught the wrong side of it. You don't want to dig any deeper." I pulled back, confused and furious. "You mean she's having an affair?" Michael shook his head slowly. "It's more than that. I can't say here, not tonight. But you need to see everything, or you'll regret not knowing." Before I could respond, a voice from behind made me jump. "What are you two doing out here?" It was my fiancé, Daniel, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. I hesitated, unsure what to tell him. "Nothing," I said, forcing a smile. "Just getting some fresh air." He frowned, but didn't press. I watched him return to the reception, and my stomach churned. I couldn't confide in him yet. The pieces didn't fit together, and I wasn't sure who I could trust. By the next morning, the wedding buzz had faded, family members gathered for brunch, faces glowing with post-celebration exhaustion. Everyone was talking about the ceremony, the dress, the cake. But my mind kept circling the photo, Claire's laugh, the way she touched Michael's arm. I knew I had to investigate without alerting her. Claire had always been the charming, manipulative type when she wanted something. She could convince anyone of anything. But I had evidence now, a visual record of a closeness that was far from innocent. I began with her bedroom. Claire had left her bag in a hurry. I slipped inside while the coast was clear. The room smelled faintly of jasmine and perfume. I rifled through her purse and found her phone. Locked, of course. But a slip of paper fell from a compartment, a phone number not saved anywhere in her contacts. A man's name was scribbled next to it. M. My hands shook. Michael? I didn't know yet, but it seemed too coincidental. I memorized the number. If I wanted answers, I would need to confront someone, and carefully. Later that afternoon, I went to the reception hall alone, under the guise of picking up forgotten items. The hall was empty except for the cleaning staff. I moved toward the terrace. Nothing. Just shadows stretching across the marble floor. My reflection in the glass doors stared back at me, wide-eyed, terrified. I didn't know what I feared more, the possibility that Claire had betrayed everyone or that I was imagining things and about to destroy my family for nothing. By evening, my doubts were interrupted by a surprise visit from Uncle Robert. He lingered near the garden watching me. "You've seen something you shouldn't have," he said flatly. I froze. What do you mean? His gaze softened, though the warning remained. "Family secrets are dangerous. Some truths can ruin more than one life. Be careful how deep you dig." His words chilled me, but they also ignited a stubborn fire inside. I had to know. I couldn't look away, not now, not ever. As I left the hall, I remembered the last frame from my camera. Claire and Michael, shoulder to shoulder, smiling at each other in a way I knew too well. I realized my life was about to change, and the storm I'd glimpsed at her wedding was only beginning. I didn't know what would happen next, but I had to find out. The morning after the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, Claire's smile from the photo haunted me. That smile wasn't innocent. It was calculated. I replayed the terrace scene in my mind. Michael's nervous glance, Uncle Robert's warning. The urge to find out the truth gnawed at me like a persistent ache. I decided to start small. I had Claire's mysterious slip of paper, and a careful investigation could yield answers without alerting her. I dialed the number, heart thudding in my chest. A man answered. Deep voice, just familiar enough to send a shiver down my spine. "Hello?" he said. "Who is this?" I asked cautiously. "Who's asking?" There was a pause, as if he weighed whether to hang up. "My name is Emily," I said. "I think you know my sister Claire." He chuckled, low and knowing. "So she's been talking about me, has she?" My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I can't say much over the phone," he said. "But Claire isn't who she seems to your family. If you want answers, meet me, tonight, midnight, at the old gazebo by the park." Before I could respond, he hung up. My fingers trembled around the phone. Was this a trap? Or the key to everything? I spent the day pretending to help clean up after the wedding, all while planning how to sneak out without raising suspicion. Daniel noticed my distraction. You've been distant all morning. Everything okay?" I smiled weakly. "Just wedding fatigue, don't worry." He studied me, probably unconvinced, and I felt a pang of guilt. But I couldn't tell him yet. He didn't need to be pulled into this chaos until I understood the full picture. Evening came, and I waited until the house quieted. Claire was in her room, probably nursing a champagne headache, while Daniel dozed on the couch. I slipped on my coat and left quietly. The streets were empty, the only sound my own footsteps crunching over frost-tipped grass. The gazebo looked abandoned from the distance, a wooden structure weathered by years of wind and rain. I approached cautiously, and the man from the phone emerged from the shadows. His features were partially obscured, but I recognized him instantly. Michael. "You came," he said. Relief flickered across his face. "I need answers," I said firmly. "Now." He nodded. "I'll tell you what I can, but you need to promise me discretion. If Claire finds out, she won't hesitate to destroy anyone who threatens her." My throat tightened. "I promise." Michael exhaled slowly. "Claire? She's been living a double life for over a year. She's engaged with your family to maintain appearances, but her real connection, her secret, is with me. We've been involved, emotionally and otherwise." I felt a twist in my gut. "So the photo, it wasn't a mistake?" "No," he said softly. "It was a moment I wish I could undo, but it's part of the truth." I sank onto the edge of the gazebo floor, trying to process the information. Why? Why with you? Why with my family knowing nothing? Michael glanced away, tension in his shoulders. "She's always been skilled at playing roles. In public, she's the perfect sister, the perfect bride. But behind closed doors, she's searching for someone who understands her, who shares her passions, who isn't bound by family expectations." I swallowed hard. "And Daniel? What about the groom, the family?" He hesitated. "They're collateral damage in her world. She never intended to hurt anyone, but she's selfish in ways she doesn't even admit to herself." I felt a surge of anger. My sister, had manipulated everyone in the family, and I was left to untangle the wreckage. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Because she's going to escalate," he said. "She wants to run away, to be with me. Soon. And you'll be left holding the pieces if you don't act." I chewed my lip, torn between protecting my family and exposing the truth. The stakes were higher than I imagined. If I told anyone now, it could ruin the wedding completely. Or worse, drive a wedge between people who had no idea. Michael reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "Everything you need to know is here. Photos, messages, details of their plan. Don't open it until you're sure you can handle the truth." I took it, feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on me. "I'll be careful." He nodded, then slipped back into the shadows. I stayed a moment longer, the cold wind whipping against my face, and finally headed home. Back in the house, I couldn't focus on anything. My mind raced through the envelope, the memories of the wedding, and the implications of Claire's secret. Daniel's snores from the living room were a reminder of the normalcy I was leaving behind. The next morning, I decided I needed context before acting. I spoke subtly with family members, trying to pick up clues without raising suspicion. My mother mentioned that Claire had been unusually secretive for months. Uncle Robert hinted at disapproval of Michael without being specific. The groom's family seemed oblivious, happily caught up in wedding photos and brunch leftovers. Then a note arrived slipped under my door. No signature, just a simple warning. Stop digging or you'll regret it. My blood ran cold. Someone knew I was getting close. Despite fear, I couldn't stop. That evening, I returned to the envelope. Inside, there were texts between Claire and Michael, showing months of communication, secret meetings, and even plans for her to meet him after the wedding. I felt my hands shake. The evidence was irrefutable. But one line in a message caught my eye. Uncle Robert suspects, but Emily will never figure it out. I froze. He knew I was suspicious. He knew I had already seen the terrace photo. And now it became clear. Uncle Robert wasn't just a bystander. He was actively watching. I had to confront him, but cautiously. That night, I found him in the study, reading quietly. Uncle Robert, I said, trying to steady my voice. We need to talk. He didn't look up immediately. About Claire? Yes, I admitted. I know she's involved with Michael. Everything is in the open now. He sighed, finally meeting my eyes. I was hoping you wouldn't find out so soon. Why? You knew, didn't you? His jaw tightened. I did. I wanted to protect the family, and her. But she's reckless, Emily. She always has been. If you expose her, everything could fall apart. But if you don't, you'll be complicit in the deception. I felt cornered, torn between family loyalty and honesty. What should I do? He leaned back, thoughtful. You need to decide if truth or peace matters more to you. There's no easy choice. As I left the study, I realized the tangled web was larger than I imagined. Not only was Claire hiding a life from everyone, but Uncle Robert had been silently trying to manage the fallout. And Michael's warning, that Claire was planning to escalate, hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. I returned to my room, staring at the envelope, knowing that what I did next would determine the fate of my family. Sleep eluded me once again. The wedding was over, but the real drama was only beginning. And just like that, I understood. Nothing would ever be normal again. The days after the wedding were a haze of tension. Claire seemed oblivious to the storm swirling around her, laughing at brunch, checking messages on her phone, and occasionally shooting me curious glances that I could not read. I had to act carefully. Every step felt like walking on ice. One wrong move could send everything crashing down. I spent the mornings reviewing the contents of Michael's envelope. Texts, photos, even small recordings of clandestine conversations. They painted a story of deception, obsession, and secrecy. Each piece was worse than the last. But buried among the incriminating evidence, there were inconsistencies. Some texts hinted at plans Claire supposedly made with Michael that didn't match the dates she'd spent with family. Others suggested Michael might have been exaggerating, or manipulating the narrative. Was it possible I had misjudged Claire? My stomach twisted at the thought. Could I be making a mistake that would destroy her life unnecessarily? By afternoon, I confronted myself in the mirror. Emily, you have to know the truth. I decided to dig deeper into Claire's daily routine before the wedding. I started with her workplace. Claire had recently started at a marketing firm, but some things didn't add up. Colleagues spoke in vague terms when I asked about her, dropping odd comments. She's ambitious, loves taking risks. She's independent. Independent? Ambitious? Not dishonest? I wondered if there had been exaggeration, or if Michael had twisted the story to his own advantage. Still, one small detail nagged at me. The receipt for a hotel room 2 towns away dated a week before the wedding, under Claire's name. I cross-checked with Michael's messages. He referenced meeting her at their spot around the same date. The coincidence was impossible to ignore. That evening, I arranged to meet Michael again, hoping for clarity. This time, I brought my camera as a shield, a tool that always helped me see things clearly. He appeared leaning against the lamppost at the edge of the park. "You came," he said. Relief flickered in his eyes, but his hands were restless. "I need the truth," I said. "No half answers." Michael sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "I've told you everything I know. But you need to understand. Claire isn't just with me. There's more." My heart skipped. "More?" He nodded. "There's someone else. Someone from before. A person she's trying to protect. That's why she's juggling everyone. She's afraid of exposing him, of destroying herself." I clenched my fists. "Who?" "I can't tell you yet. Not safely. But if you keep digging, you'll see why her actions make sense. Morally, at least in her own mind." The warning made my stomach churn. There were layers to Claire I hadn't imagined, and suddenly my anger mingled with fear. She wasn't merely deceitful, she was protecting secrets, and I didn't know if they were noble or dangerous. The following day, I attempted subtle surveillance. I watched Claire from the window as she walked to the local cafe. She met a man there, not Michael, not anyone I knew. They spoke quietly, laughed softly, and shared something intimate that made my chest twist. I snapped photos discreetly, documenting the meetings. Back home, I compared the photos to those in Michael's envelope. There were overlaps, but differences too. Times, places, gestures that didn't match. My mind spun. Claire was living a complex double life, but maybe not in the way Michael described. Perhaps she had reasons beyond selfish desire. That evening, my mother confronted me. "Emily, you've been distant. Something's wrong." I hesitated. "It's nothing, just work stress." She studied me, worried. "Are you sure? You know you can tell me anything." Her trust cut deeper than any confrontation with Claire. I realized I couldn't burden her with half the story yet. Not until I knew the truth myself. The next 2 days were a tangle of observation, careful questioning of family members, and attempting to untangle Michael's narrative from reality. My internal conflict grew. Every clue seemed to pull in two directions, proof of betrayal or proof of misunderstood intentions. Then came the tipping point. I received an anonymous text on my phone. "Stop now, Emily, she's watching you." My pulse raced. Claire? Michael? Uncle Robert? Someone else? I didn't know, but suddenly the stakes were more dangerous than I'd imagined. That night, I confronted Claire directly. She was in the living room, reviewing photos from the wedding. I approached cautiously, holding the envelope. "Claire, we need to talk. Now." She looked up, her smile unshakable. "About what, Emily? You look tense." "The photos, the texts, Michael, everything," I said. "I know." Her expression faltered for the first time in days. A flash of panic crossed her face, quickly masked by composure. "Emily, you don't understand. You have no idea what's going on." "Then explain," I demanded. "Everything, no lies." She sighed, finally lowering the wedding album from her hands. "You're right, I've been dishonest, but not for the reasons you think. Michael, yes, he's involved, but it's complicated. There's someone else, a man from my past. I've been trying to protect him and everyone else in the process. I never wanted to hurt anyone." My anger surged. "Protect him? By deceiving your family? By risking the trust of everyone who loves you?" "I had no choice," she whispered. "If anyone knew, it would ruin more than me. It would ruin him. And somehow, in trying to manage it all, I got caught in my own web." Her confession struck me in waves. Anger, relief, confusion, heartbreak. This wasn't simply an affair. It was a web of hidden loyalties, past mistakes, and desperate attempts to shield someone she cared about. The following days were a tense negotiation of truth. I met Michael again, this time armed with Claire's clarification. His reaction was telling. Anger, confusion, then reluctant acceptance. He hadn't known about the man from her past, and his narrative had been skewed by jealousy and assumption. Family gatherings became exercises in delicate observation. I had to decide how much to reveal, and to whom, balancing honesty with protection. Uncle Robert watched closely, occasionally offering cryptic advice. I realized he had been a silent guardian, aware of Claire's complexities, trying to prevent catastrophe without exposing her. By the end of the week, the tangled threads of deception began to untangle. I pieced together a timeline of Claire's double life. Secret meetings, protective lies, and moments of vulnerability that Michael and I had misinterpreted. In confronting all parties, Claire, Michael, and Uncle Robert, I saw motives clearly. Michael had acted impulsively, Claire had acted protectively, and Uncle Robert had acted cautiously. My own role became clear: witness, mediator, and eventually, moral compass. Yet even as truths emerged, tension lingered. Would the family forgive Claire? Would Michael accept her boundaries? Would I ever stop feeling the weight of knowing? The morning sun slanted through the curtains, casting a pale glow over the wedding remnants. I sat at the kitchen table, the envelope from Michael open beside me, photos and texts carefully spread out. Claire had agreed to talk openly, and today we would begin untangling the last of the secrets. She arrived quietly, dressed in casual clothes, her hair pulled back. The tension in her posture was palpable. She knew this was no longer just about secrecy. It was about accountability. "I want to be honest," she said, sitting across from me. "All of it. No more lies, no more hiding." I nodded, my own voice soft. "I need to understand everything. Every relationship, every decision. Why you did what you did, and who was involved." She took a deep breath. It started months before the wedding. I met Michael, yes, but I also reconnected with someone from my past, someone I had hurt long ago. He's fragile. If the truth came out, it would destroy him emotionally, professionally, socially. I couldn't let that happen. I felt a pang of sympathy, despite my lingering anger. And so you pretended everything was fine, while juggling both relationships? Yes, she admitted. I convinced myself it was temporary. I told Michael I loved him, but I didn't want to betray the family or the man I was protecting. I thought I could manage it, keep it contained. But clearly, I miscalculated. Her eyes shimmered with tears. Emily, I never meant to hurt anyone, not Daniel, not the family, not you. I exhaled slowly, absorbing her words. It was more than betrayal. It was an intricate web of past regrets, emotional debts, and protective instincts gone wrong. I need to see him, I said quietly, referring to the man from her past. Claire hesitated. He's not ready. Not yet. That's why I've been so careful. I understood immediately. The mystery man wasn't a villain. He was a reason, a driving force behind her deception. The affair with Michael, the secrecy, the tension with the family, it all stemmed from protection, not selfishness. Later that afternoon, we called Michael to a neutral location. He arrived, tense but cautious. Claire explained the situation fully, the man from her past, her reasons for secrecy, and the impossibility of continuing the affair with him. Michael's initial anger melted into reluctant comprehension. He understood now that Claire had acted with complicated motives, not mere desire or recklessness. The confrontation was intense but necessary. Emotions spilled over. Anger, guilt, relief, and empathy mingled in equal measure. After hours of discussion, Michael agreed to step back, giving Claire space to reconcile her past and mend family ties. Then came the hardest conversation: the family. I gathered my mother, Uncle Robert, and Daniel. I recounted the truths as gently as possible: the double life, the protective motives, the affair with Michael, and the mystery of the man from her past. Reactions were mixed. My mother's face flushed red with worry and anger, then softened with understanding. Uncle Robert remained composed, though I noticed the tightness in his jaw. Daniel's expression was unreadable, a mixture of hurt and curiosity. What matters now, I said, is that we approach this with compassion. Claire's intentions were misguided but not malicious. She needs support to fix this, not judgment. Over the next few days, Claire made amends where possible. She apologized privately to Daniel, explaining the motives behind her secrecy. She met briefly with Michael to ensure closure, and she maintained boundaries while beginning to contact the man from her past to reconcile. The family dynamics shifted slowly. Trust, once fractured, began to mend with effort, honesty, and patience. I became a mediator, helping Claire navigate apologies and explanations, and learning to balance loyalty with truth. One afternoon, Claire and I sat on the garden terrace, the same spot where the wedding photo had first revealed the secret. I can't believe how tangled everything got, she said, voice soft, almost fragile. I feel like I betrayed everyone I love. You did, but it's not irreparable, I replied. People can forgive when they understand the reasons. And you've been honest now. That's a start. She smiled faintly, not the radiant wedding day smile, but a more genuine one, touched with vulnerability. I was selfish and scared. I thought I could manage it all alone, but I couldn't. I reached out, placing a hand over hers. None of us are perfect. The key is learning, growing, and not letting fear dictate our actions. You're learning now, and that's what matters. The remaining weeks were a delicate dance of healing. Claire met privately with the man from her past, explaining her motives and seeking forgiveness. It wasn't easy, but they reached understanding. Michael moved on, though the tension lingered briefly before fading. The family's trust was rebuilt slowly, with small gestures, candid conversations, and shared moments of honesty. Through it all, I realized my own role in the story. I had been the observer, the recorder, the moral anchor, but I had also learned patience, empathy, and the complexity of human motives. The experience changed how I viewed loyalty, love, and the messy nature of truth. Months later, the wedding photos I had taken were carefully archived. I reviewed them with a new lens, not just the images of smiles and laughter, but of hidden emotions, tension, and vulnerability. Every frame told a story beyond the surface. Sitting in the garden, camera in hand, I reflected on the journey. Secrets, I learned, are rarely simple. They are layers of fear, love, and protection, sometimes misunderstood, sometimes misrepresented. But confronting them, Seeking clarity and embracing the truth, painful though it may be, creates the space for healing. Claire approached me, holding a cup of tea. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything. I couldn't have faced this without you." I smiled, feeling a warmth that had been absent during those tense weeks. "You faced it because you wanted to fix things. I just helped you see it through." We sat together in silence, the garden quiet except for the whisper of the wind and the distant hum of the city. The storm of the wedding, the photos, the secrets, the confrontations, it had passed. What remained was clarity, understanding, and the beginning of true reconciliation. And I realized something important. Sometimes the hardest part isn't uncovering secrets, it's deciding what to do once you know them. And in facing that, we find our own strength. Looking back, I see now that the wedding was not just a celebration, it was a turning point. I learned that appearances can be deceiving, that love and loyalty are not always straightforward, and that honesty, even when terrifying, is essential. I also understood my own capacity for empathy. I had judged quickly, assumed the worst, and allowed fear to guide my thoughts. But listening, observing, and seeking the full story taught me patience, courage, and the complexity of human emotion. Claire and I are closer now, bonded not by perfection but by truth. Our family is healing, stronger for the challenges we've faced. And I too have grown, aware that life is a mosaic of choices, consequences, and forgiveness. Sometimes the hardest truths lead to the most profound growth.